What's up, everyone? My name is Craig Pera, and you are listening to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions, a podcast to inspire you and guide you and instruct you, lead you, point you, help you to sustain the aggressive pursuit of a great life. And the reason why I say it that way is because it is the only chance that you have of channeling these deeply embedded and deeply entrenched behaviors that brought you to me. And so what we're going to talk about today is cognitive distortions. We're going to talk about what they are, and I'm going to give you some examples of cognitive distortions. And as I'm giving you those examples, what I want you to do, or what I hope to inspire you to do, is to reflect. Right? Use this time that you are listening to learn something about yourself. And the way to make sure that those learning sticks is to write it down. So get that journal handy as we talk about cognitive distortions. And let's just some example. Oh, okay. So we're going to talk about what to do about it. We're going to talk the results that you can achieve when you are able to respond to those cognitive distortions in a healthy, constructive way. And the more trauma that you have, the more mental illness that you have, the greater the cognitive distortions for many people. At least they were for me. So here's a couple of examples of, because, we're ruined financially. It's over. We're never going to make it. And what I want you thinking about is those automatic, instantaneous reactions. Right? The ones that you have often. I'm such a piece of this is never going to work. You always say it that way. So let's go to some definitions. There's a couple of good ones that I hope bring you value. So cognitive distortions are internal mental filters or biases that increase our misery, that fuel our anxiety, and make us feel bad about ourselves. A cognitive distortion is an exaggerated or an irrational thought pattern involved in the onset or perpetuation of psychopathological states such as depression and anxiety. Cognitive distortions are thoughts that cause individuals, you, me, to perceive reality inaccurately. And I will tell you, brothers, the more I've come to understand about every single one of which I am aware, instantaneous reactions, where I am, especially when there is conflict, cognitive distortion. I assume it now. And it's an interesting place to be. And that's a whole other episode around the identity when when you realize like just about every reaction you've had was wrong. Not in the sense that you weren't feeling a certain way, but you did nothing to create that desired outcome. The more you grow, the more you realize how futile those prior efforts were and how corruptive those distortions are. So let's go through some specific examples. And here's what I invite you to do. While we're going through these different categories, I'm going to list some different categories of cognitive distortions. And I feel really good about you are going to connect with many of them. What I want you to do is to think back to the time when that cognitive distortion was present, because we've got to tie it practically. We've got to tie it to something that's happening in your life. I call that operationalizing the lesson. So as I'm giving you the example, I want you to think about, okay, when did I do that? And not just when did I do it, don't engage in cognitive distortions, black or white thinking. Think about it on a spectrum, okay? So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I want everyone listening to play chess. And so I want you to think about these cognitive distortions as if they exist on a spectrum, okay? So get those notebooks handy. Let's go through some of them, and I hope you connect. Black and white or all or nothing thinking. I will never be successful. What comes up for you? And for those folks who are joining us, write it in the chat. Right. When was the last time you engaged in black and white thinking? And here's the here's what happens. Listen, mental rigidity is a common attribute of many mental health disorders, and we all exist on a spectrum somewhere regarding that mental health disorder. And there's such an opportunity to learn about yourself and open your mind to other possibilities. Open your mind to create positive outcomes. Realizing that when that cognitive distortion comes and you feel it in your body and that fear-based response that goes back to childhood and beyond, that part reacts in that moment, that becomes a call to action. That becomes the moment, the Gandalf with the staff, like, boom, you shall not pass. Now, be careful, you're not fighting a monster. And for those of us who've been paying attention to the parts work, you'll always lose in a fight against yourself. But think of the opportunity. Think of the opportunity of you not engaging in black or white thinking, you not being aware of the spectrum, and your mind is completely different. You have a completely different perspective. You're able to respond to events in a healthy, constructive way. You're able to see positive outcomes when people see failure. You're able to look inward and realize that point of reaction, that moment where the cognitive distortion came, is in fact a growth opportunity. So how crazy is that? And now what you've done is you've created Kaizen. You've created that means a number of things, but continuous improvement. You've created a system where each of those cognitive distortions become a learning opportunity, become a growth opportunity, become, instead of a source of shame and I'm bad and I'm not good enough and I should be punished and all the garbage that comes with that, all that stinking thinking, you've built into the model a reality that says, when this happens, I'm going to learn why. I'm going to look at this moment as a learning opportunity. And when you realize, guys, here's where I think the information is powerful in a number of areas. But for brothers who have maybe the asshole gene, who have the incredible ability to compartmentalize genes, that engages in these cognitive dissonant behaviors, there is an incredible ability to compartmentalize, and it's you're not going to get rid of that automatic instantaneous reaction. So that automatic instantaneous reaction becomes the call to action. It is in that moment of conflict where you create safety within yourself, because there's a reason why you're reacting like that. Okay, let's keep going. Do you connect with jumping to conclusions or mind reading? Jumping to conclusions or mind reading. I was eating pretzels. Michelle is looking at me. She has a face. The face was a completely normal face, guys. I'm telling you where my mind went, okay? We've all agreed I've got a touch of the crazy. I'm sharing with you my reactions, okay? I'm not proud of it, but I have to be aware of it, and I want you to be aware of yours. So here we go. So I'm eating the pretzels, and all of a sudden, my mind starts thinking, wait, are these the wrong pretzels? Am I eating too many of the pretzels? Am I being messy with the pretzels? There's that, like, just that instant, like, mind reading. And I laughed and looked up and I said, there's no, you have no issue with the pretzels, do you? And she looked at me kind of startled and said, what? Which is, of course, what happened. And so, and guys, important, look for those little things. Look for the small moments. Look for the places where, oh, I shouldn't react that way. There's so many great opportunities. Make sure you're journaling. Let's go. Personalization. Everything stinks because of me. Shoulding and musting. Using language that is self-critical, that puts a lot of pressure on you. I should be losing weight. I should have done this. I should have done that. There's quote and quote on the internet about woulda, coulda, shoulda. That language is poisonous. Why? It does not produce a desired outcome. Now, the part that's engaging in that behavior is trying to help identify where those opportunities are, but it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way. Here's another one, overgeneralizations. I'll never be successful. I'll always be a failure. And for me, anytime I use those words, the goal that I have is to use that as an inflection point. What aspect of the physical universe where I, humble me, always the student, is 100% certain about anything? And so it's not that I don't have those automatic instantaneous reactions. It's just that I'm able to respond to them. And when we talk about the aggressive pursuit of a great life, that has to include self-care, self-esteem, prioritizing relationships, incorporating purpose into the fabric of your reality, having connection, having accountability, having community, like really, really, really hard. And all of those things won't eliminate the cognitive distortion. Now, maybe for some of you, I've heard, certainly well aware of spontaneous remission cases, but the model that has and continues to inspire me is using that cognitive distortion as an opportunity. So here's another one, magnifying or minimizing. And oh, guys, do we minimize? Do we minimize? Do we minimize? Brothers, let's think about this for a second. Let's think about this for a second. It's not that bad. But it's only, I think of the rationalizations here. Think of the rationalizations. I only nibbled around the edges and looked at the Instagram posts where her clothes were on. I only was on YouTube. It was just a video. It was just a video. And what I love about that is, and that all may be true. It may be just that. But when guys peel back the layers, that moment wasn't something that was lifting them up. It wasn't something that was making them feel good about themselves. Like a video game, they felt that was a leakage of their sexual energy. That was wasted energy. That was distracting energy at best. an energy that caused his partner so much pain, awakening to that reality. It's just that. It's just that. When you awaken to the power inherent in your sexuality, which is why that identity work is so important. Who do you want to become as a sexual being? Like what are your ideals? What's important to you? What brings you pleasure? What do you like? What you don't like? Like, oh my God, there's no programming there. We only know shame. We only keep looking at what we're not supposed to look at. And look where that brought us. Oof. Hello, darkness, my old friend. So the just, and this is different for everybody, but the just for me was realizing, wait a minute, there's no just. This is a powerful, sacred, precious force that I need to honor. This part that was, corrupted at such a young age and had some of those child experiences that I had and some of the childhood experiences that you had. But shame. And so it's just, maybe it's just, or it might be an opportunity for you to connect deeper around the identity of that man of integrity, the identity of the healthy sexual being, the identity of who you want to become. And you've heard in other podcasts how important identity is. If you have the book Atomic Habits, reread chapter 2, reread the chapter summary at the end. So, bit of a tangent there around I'll just, but here's a couple of examples. And certainly for you men listening, please don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat. Share your cognitive distortions, because you will all come to find that the better, and what I love about, and go online, read them, study them, figure out what yours are most, what applies to you. And here's the thing, for you brothers who have done your parts work, okay, now you can assign these cognitive distortions to each part. And now you've got a library of information to better understand, with tools, teachings, techniques that you can use to interrupt that black and white thinking, interrupt that jumping to conclusions. And because we're creatures of habit, you're going to find that there's not too many. We're creatures of habit. You probably have 5. I mean, maybe all of them, but main ones. So something to think about. Fortune telling. Here's another one. Right? Think of a medical issue, projecting what's going to happen. And here, projecting the future. From the partner's perspective, he's definitely going to fail. He's definitely going to fail. There's no way he can't fail. And from the man's perspective, I'm never going to save my relationship. This is going to destroy me. I'm going to get divorced. So again, another example where there may be, and that's the thing about cognitive distortions, is there's often some reality. And it's important to understand that reality, but not to that extreme, because taking it to that extreme interrupts your ability to be open to other outcomes, to avoid that mental rigidity, and to respond better in the moment. Here are a couple of others we'll talk about, and then I want to, give you some sense on what to do about it. So comparing, catastrophizing. I'm going to die. I catastrophize. I have joked, if you've all seen Sanford and Son, Elizabeth, this is the big one, honey. I'm coming to you. This is the big one. So I catastrophize. I absolutely do that around my health, around the business, around personal goals. Um, and now that I'm aware of it, I can do something about it. So, do you catastrophize? Let me know in the chat. Another one is disqualifying the positive. And I want to touch on that just for a minute or two. And then we talk about what to do about it. And so, disqualifying the positive, downplaying the positive. Think right now about how you respond to a compliment. Try to remember if you're, in a safe place to do so, you can close your eyes and see if you can bring up that visual of someone saying something nice to you, saying something kind to you, congratulating you, recognizing you for something that you did. And these all have their unique poison. Now I'm talking about the unique poison in disqualifying the positive, because you are not reflecting reality. There is positive, half empty, half full. Kill you, make you stronger. Feed the right wolf, the wrong wolf. And that doesn't mean the negative does not exist. That doesn't mean the negative does not exist. But life is about how you respond to that, how you respond to those challenges. And along that journey, so many guys can't take in pride. They feel that they don't deserve it, can't accept that positive. So my trigger response plan, a trigger response plan is an in the moment response that you use in response to that cognitive distortion. So you realize someone gives me a compliment. Someone gives me a compliment. Up, I've now entered disqualifying the positive. I have a part that is going to reject this, that feels like he doesn't deserve it, that has this innate sense of worthlessness. He's okay now, but that's when he kind of gets triggered into existence, the part that feels he doesn't deserve it. And so when that happens, so what do I do about it? Right? What do I do about that physiological, almost instinctual response to reject that compliment? To, oh, stop it! You did this, okay? You did this, okay? I pointed here, I pointed there. You did this, and that's true too. But I'm talking about, like, who am I? I realized, who am I to take that away from you? I had to kind of come to it externally. Who am I to take that gift? It's like swatting it away. Who am I to deny you that? And I realized, wait a minute. If this other person of sound mind and body is saying something about me to me, I would certainly receive the negative. Huh? I would certainly and do receive the negative. I welcome it. I want it. I crave it. We need it. But come on. I don't, it hits differently, right? You know it does. It hits differently. And so, what do I do in that moment, right? And that's the trigger response plan. I call it my gratitude protocols. I also have my forgiveness protocols. I also have my self-love protocols. But when I'm receiving a compliment, my trigger response plan is I put my hand on my heart. I look the person in the eye, try not, be awkward, just the right amount of time. Look the person in the eye and breathe in as he's speaking or she is speaking, and receive it. And after they're done talking, I pause. And maybe I'll have two hands on my heart now. I look them back and I say, thank you. Thank you. And it's that space. It's that space. And there's the thoughts. There's the thoughts, right? Those thoughts are there. Negative thoughts. I could have done better. I could have helped them get there quicker. I could have, right? All those opportunities. Good. I need those. I need that part. I need that part. I can't get rid of that part. We need our internal critic. But we got to retrain the internal critic. We got to get that part working for us. And rejecting that positivity and seeing it from the half-empty perspective is poison. It's a life of suffering and pain. Even if, some of you like to think about it from a sobriety perspective. One day is better than 23 hours. You got to be building on the positive. The self-deprecation and the self-loathing and the cognitive distortions aren't making it better. They're making it worse. Yes, D's, I am real, and this is not pre-recorded. Welcome. Let me put in the chat the article on cognitive distortions. I think you should click on it and learn about them and reflect in your life where you are distorting. And you do not have to look far than beyond any relationship in your life that has a power dynamic. And even though husband-wife's supposed to be one, a lot of my clients, and I know how I felt I was in the one down, happy wife, yes, dear, whatever you say, dear. No concept of my needs, putting all my stuff onto her. A lot of black and white thinking. So what is the impact on your life if you are able to use those cognitive distortion moments as a growth opportunity? It's massive. Think about it. Think about, on that spectrum, 3%, 5%. And so what I invite you to reflect on is where on this list, go online, read about cognitive distortions, and figure out, okay, I'm going to focus on catastrophizing. I'm going to focus on black and white thinking. I'm going to focus on mind reading. Oh, the mind reading. It's not helping. But it's not helping. And I'm saying this to myself, right? Because we're trained and conditioned to react this way. And this is a whole other broadcast. But those cognitive distortions, those trained, conditioned responses are actually meeting needs in a way that is now causing serious consequences, but they're meeting needs. Those cognitive distortions, as you dive deeper into the internal family systems model, you will see at most of those cognitive distortions, you will see in what in IFS they call a protector. A protector, always bad. Well, why would I think that? How might that be a defense mechanism from my past? How might catastrophizing may have helped me not get my hopes up or maybe prepared for the worst? How might that be a risk management tool? How might that help me doing what I do today? Oh, goodness gracious, an incredible way. And you'll see, guys, for each of the negatives, there's positives. And for the positives, there's a cost. So there's another side, and that's what I invite you to think about, is those cognitive distortions. What are yours? What are yours? Pick the ones that you're going to focus on and come up with an in-the-moment plan. That's it. Do something in the moment. You can, for example, so you have that awareness, right? You've entered cognitive distortion territory. So that's wrong thought, right? And I know that's judging the thought, but it's a fair level one step. It's like, like, hey, no, wait a minute. The sky's not falling. And then snap the elastic band. That's what that's there for. Feed the Right Wolf bands, available on the website. Love that story. And so the snapping of the band is not a self-harming act. Absolutely not. It is a snap out of it. Snap out of it. Maybe it isn't what you think it is. Maybe there's another reality. Maybe the face that your wife made doesn't mean she hates you and thinks you're a worthless piece of garbage, is a face where she's frustrated and annoyed or upset about something that may have nothing to do with you. That may have nothing to do with you, and often does not. Often does not. So these cognitive distortions, may I inspire a fire underneath you, are growth opportunities. You now, right? It's not, I've got all these cognitive distortions. I got this mental illness. I got that mental illness. No, I got a category. I now can look at this list of cognitive distortions, and let me read the list just so you can, and listen, go online, look at the article. Let's do a quick review. Black and white, all or nothing thinking. Okay. Another one, jumping to conclusions or mind reading. Personalization. Everybody failed because of me. The department failed because of me. Everything's failing because of me. Shoulding and musting. Using language that is self-critical, that puts a lot of pressure on you. I should do this. I should do that. Lots of quotes on woulda, coulda, shoulda. Poison. Overgeneralization. I'll never solve this problem. I'm always going to be bad. Not true. Magnification and minimization. Works both ways. Fortune telling. Comparison. Catastrophizing. Labeling. Assigning labels that are unhealthy. That aren't lifting you up, that aren't moving you towards. Brother and sister, I don't know any lazy. I don't know lazy. I don't know lazy. I know people struggling. I know people trying to figure themselves out. I know some parts sometimes that are frozen in fear of doing a simple act like going to the store. For some people, for some actions. So that we're all on the spectrum. And this gives us an opportunity to be aware, is fear coming into our lives? It is coming through a cognitive distortion. Thank you, Brett, for those kind words. So find your cognitive distortion, create your trigger response plan for each cognitive distortion, and repeat. Like, there are obviously other aspects to self-growth and self-love and sustainability, but where are the distortions? What are you going to do about it? And the beauty of that is that you will fail. You will fail, and you will learn, and you will grow from that failure. And this isn't something, this doesn't work. You're going to make it work. You got to make it work. You got to figure out what's going to work for you. We have some brothers with OCD, like porn addiction symptoms, have had doctors prescribe them naltrexone, which can only be obtained through a physician, but has helped them with the triggers. And these clients said, whoop, dialed it down. And these guys felt that they were closer to like an OCD. And that's what they were seeing their therapist for when we helped them find the therapist and help them realize what was going on. But that's an example, right? You got to figure that out. That's not your solution. There's other solutions, right? And what are the absolute mandatory solutions in the aggressive pursuit of the great life? Self-care. Those cognitive distortions are so deeply programmed. When I trip on the sidewalk carrying cups of coffee, and the first thought, like faster than the speed of light, quantum. I'm just making up a big word but feels like it's the right place to say it, like at a quantum level, automatic piece of shit. Why? And I learn why. And you're going to learn why. And you're going to use each of those moments as growth opportunities to continue to be your best self and feed the right wolf. Thank you so much for listening to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. If you are struggling, if you think you might need more help, you can visit the website www.themindfulhabit.com, themindfulhabit.com, and we have a core training, a self-study program that right now, as of the broadcast of this video, I run the weekly webinar in that program. So it's the same lessons, exercises, and workbook the guys pay thousands for. Use the coupon code podcast. 30% off. Reach out to support at themindfulhabit.com if you have any questions. So listen, sometimes we need more help, and I got great value when I put my money where my mouth is. So we want to make it, easier for you guys to get help. So use the coupon code podcast to get a 30% discount. And continue to listen to podcasts and continue to take action on podcasts. Right. And ask yourself, after listening to each podcast, after listening to each piece of content that you consume, because there's a lot of content, right, brothers? I'm sure all of us in the past 72 hours have listened to The Secret for Everything. Behavior change, this problem, that, and they're all, some of them are right, some of them are wrong, but that's a whole nother story. So much information. How are you going to operationalize that information? How are you going to incorporate that information into the fiber of your being so it is not a once and done? One of my favorite words in recovery, performance, self-development, high performance is operationalization. It's a really cumbersome, clunky word, but what it means is you've learned this lesson, failure equals opportunity. How are you going to operationalize that lesson into your life? Like, what do you do with that information? How does that data impact, for example, those of you brothers further along, maybe doing some of your parts work, right? How does it impact that part? That part that awakens when, he feels that way. So much growth, so much opportunity. And we do a weekly webinar. Sorry, I'm just realized I'm bouncing around. If anybody has any questions, put them in the chat. Thank you so much for listening. Yes, operationalization. Thank you. Sustainability It's the longer I do this, the more important that becomes. It's not as sexy, and that's probably a poor choice of words. It's not as heavy as some of the other lessons are. But if you can't operationalize that lesson, if you can't weave that lesson into the fabric of your reality, you're really going to be stuck. So think about that. Think about that. The question I asked myself when I had a boss, when I was at the Hartford Financial Services Group, a great institution, great training, great leadership. I was in my first business role of my entire career. And I had a boss, and I would share with her all this wonderful information. And she was a tiny woman, Italian, just like my mother. I projected my mother onto her. I drove this poor lady nuts, but she drove me nuts too. And also made me who I am in a very deep and profound way. So Maria, if you are listening, thank you again. She hears this 1,000 times. And when I do mention it, I reach out to her and let her know I thanked you again. She'd say, so what? And I get so defensive. She goes, no, listen, I don't want you to be defensive, but think about the question, right? It's an interesting question. And she kind of made me take a few breaths and help me think about it. She goes, so what? Think about if you're asking yourself that question. Think how much time you would have saved. For an example. Now, she's up here, right? She's up here and I'm down here. And she goes, think about if you said, so what at this decision point? What would that have done for you? I probably would have saved 4 hours of work. So it's a great question. It's got a little edge to it, so it can be a little triggering, but I think that also enhances the opportunity. And never to someone else. It's never, obviously, right? Nothing unkind. It's a tool that I like that helps me realize, so what? What am I going to do about it? And sometimes the answer is absolutely nothing. And that's wonderful too. Sometimes it's enjoy it, relax, release, escape, drift away, watch the silly TV show. But if it's something around personal and professional development, all right, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? So I want you asking those questions as well. All right, my dear friends, I will see you the next time. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you guys who are here. Brett, Nathan, Dees. That's a great name. And for those listening on one of the streaming services, if you subscribe to me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Twitter, you'll get notified when I go live. And I would love to answer your questions and point you in the right direction and give you guidance to help you aggressively pursue a great life. Have a great night. Bye, everybody.